What if your favorite Harry Potter movie scene never existed in the books? Or it did, but happened in a completely different way? Time to break down every major scene the films got wrong. Philosopher's Stone. The first movie commits its biggest crime in the final 10 minutes, when Harry defeats Quirrell by grabbing his face until the man crumbles into ash. Dramatic? Sure. Canon? Not even close. In the book, Quirrell is the one doing the grabbing, and his skin blisters whenever he touches Harry. Harry just holds on in agony until he passes out. The actual kill belongs to Voldemort, who abandons Quirrell's body and leaves his loyal servant to die like a used Kleenex. The movie flipped this so that the 11-year-old essentially melts a teacher with his bare hands, then walks away without a single follow-up question from the school counselor. Hogwarts doesn't have one, and that explains a lot. The zoo scene got a Hollywood upgrade too. The book version is simple. The glass vanishes, the boa slithers out, and Dudley and Piers leap back screaming. Nobody falls anywhere. The movie added Dudley toppling into the tank and the glass reappearing to trap him, which, to be fair, is genuinely funnier. Petunia screaming at her son behind the glass is great cinema. It's just not what happened. Then there's the Forbidden Forest detention. The movie sends Harry, Hermione, Ron, and Draco into the woods. In the book, Ron isn't even there. He's in the hospital wing nursing a bite from Norbert the baby dragon, and the fourth detention slot belongs to Neville. The film pulled this trick constantly. Take Neville's moments, hand them to someone more famous, repeat for a decade. Keep count as we go, the poor boy gets robbed in almost every film. And here's the part nobody talks about. The devil's snare scene got trimmed, then flipped on its head. In the movie, Hermione calmly tells everyone to relax while Ron panics like a man being eaten by a salad. In the book, it's Hermione who loses it, wailing that there's no wood to light a fire, while Ron bellows the immortal line, "Are you a witch or not?" The books even pay this off 6 years later, when Hermione throws the same line back at him. The movie traded a 7-book-long joke for 30 seconds of Rupert Grint screaming. Honestly, tough call. The trapdoor gauntlet got quietly amputated too. The book sends the trio through 7 protections, and one of them belongs to Snape, a logic riddle with 7 potions, where one bottle moves a drinker forward through black flames. One sends them back, and the wrong ones are poison. Hermione solves it with pure reasoning. No wand involved. And the book makes a point of it. Most great wizards, she notes, don't have an ounce of logic. It's her biggest moment of the first book, the scene where brains officially beat magic. The movie cut the entire chamber, jumping straight from the chess game to Quirrell. So film Hermione's contribution to the finale boils down to hugging Ron's unconscious body and running for help. The first of many times the movies trimmed Hermione's intelligence and oddly often handed her everyone else's good lines instead. The fandom calls the result Hermione Sue. The real book Hermione earned her moments the hard way with homework. The Chamber of Secrets. The Polyjuice potion scene contains one of the most quietly ridiculous changes in the entire series. Harry and Ron transform into Crabbe and Goyle, walk into the Slytherin common room and proceed to talk to Draco Malfoy in their own completely unchanged voices. Draco, a boy who spends every waking hour with these two, notices nothing. In the book, the potion transforms everything, voice included. Harry literally hears himself speak in Goyle's low rasp and finds it deeply weird. The filmmakers kept the original voices so the audience wouldn't get confused about who was who, which is fair, but it turned Draco into someone who couldn't identify his own bodyguards in a police lineup. To be clear, the potion canonically copies the entire body. That's the whole point. Imposters in the books are terrifyingly undetectable, which becomes a massive plot engine 2 movies later. Here, apparently, it's a costume with a voice glitch. The second change is smaller, but it shaped an entire ship. At the end of the film, Hermione runs into the Great Hall, freshly unpetrified, throws her arms around Harry, then turns to Ron, freezes, and the two settle on the most painful handshake in cinema history. Fans treat this as the official birth of Ron and Hermione's romance. The book has no handshake at all. Hermione just runs up to both boys, thrilled because they're 12 and a basilisk is dead. Fun fact, the awkwardness wasn't even written that way. Emma Watson felt embarrassed about hugging her co-stars in front of the whole crew, so the director rewrote the moment on the spot. A shy 12-year-old actress accidentally created what fans now call the first canonical Hermione scene. The books wouldn't get around to that romance for years, but the movie planted the flag early, entirely by accident, and the fandom has been watering it ever since. The Prisoner of Azkaban. The third film opens with mischief before the title card even hits the screen. Harry hides under his blanket at Privet Drive, casting Lumos Maxima over and over like a kid playing with a new toy. Two problems here. The catch? Lumos Maxima doesn't exist in the books at all. The filmmakers invented the spell for this one scene. And the bigger issue, underage wizards are legally banned from doing magic outside school. The book opens with Harry doing his homework at night using a regular muggle flashlight, specifically because one more magical slip-up could get him expelled. That law is the engine of the entire book. Harry blows up Aunt Marge, panics, and runs away from home convinced the ministry will snap his wand. The movie keeps all of that drama and still opens with Harry casually spamming illegal magic in his bedroom like the rules apply to everyone except the main character. The ministry never notices. Apparently the trace takes summers off. Great invention though. Even Apple took it. Say Lumos to your iPhone and the flashlight turns on. No, really, I just did it and it works. The firebolt scene might be the most expensive gift wrapping job in movie history. The film saves the broom for the final shot. A mysterious package, a buckbeater feather, and Harry soaring off into a freeze frame cute as a final shot, sure. The book tells a completely different story, and a far better one. The firebolt arrives on Christmas morning with no card attached, right after the Dementors destroyed Harry's old Nimbus. Hermione takes one look at an anonymous, absurdly expensive gift sent to a boy being hunted by an escaped murderer, and does the most Hermione thing imaginable. She reports it to McGonagall. Snitch. The broom gets confiscated and stripped down for jinxes. Harry and Ron stop speaking to Hermione for weeks, and the whole subplot becomes a slow burn mystery about who sent it and why. The answer, of course, is Sirius, making up for 12 years of missed birthdays and one ridiculous purchase. The movie compressed months of suspicion, friendship, drama, and payoff into 30 seconds of credits adjacent fan service. Sirius later explained in a letter that Crookshanks took the order to the Owl office for him, but the broom drama deserved more than the post-credits cameo energy. The biggest sin of the third movie is what it never says aloud. The Marauders map is signed by Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, and the film never explains who the heck they are. The book spells it out: 4 best friends at Hogwarts, 3 of whom became illegal animagi to keep the 4th, a werewolf, company during full moons. Lupin is Moony, Pettigrew is Wormtail, Sirius is Padfoot, and Prongs is James Potter, whose animagus form was a stag, which means movie-only fans never learn why Harry's Patronus is a stag. It's literally his father answering him. The film flashes the 4 nicknames only when the map insults Snape and trusts the audience to have done the reading. The map itself also loses its origin story, going from crown jewel of the Marauders' rule-breaking career to a random magic prop Fred and George happen to own. An entire generational backstory, the emotional spine of the whole book, reduced to a nickname drop nobody on screen bothers to decode. The Goblet of Fire. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? The most famous adaptation crime in the franchise. And the books prosecute it with a single adverb. In the book, the key detail sits right after the question. He asked calmly. Calmly is how you ask someone to pass the salt. Book Dumbledore already suspects something bigger is going on, so the question is a formality delivered with the urgency of a man ordering tea. The movie read that one word and directed the exact opposite. Movie Dumbledore sprints across the room, grabs a traumatized teenager, and shakes him like a vending machine that ate his money. 2 decades later, fans still haven't let it go, and frankly, they shouldn't. The first task got the Hollywood treatment too. In the book, the Horntail stays chained in the arena, while Harry summons his firebolt and outflies it. Clean and clever. Exactly what the task was designed to test. In the movie, the dragon rips its chain loose and chases Harry across the Hogwarts rooftops, demolishing half the castle while a stadium full of judges presumably just waits. Nobody goes after them. A student with a deadly beast vanished over the horizon, and the school's plan is apparently hope he comes back in one piece? The gillyweed swamp stings more. In the book, Dobby overhears that Harry needs to breathe underwater and shows up at dawn with gillyweed, repaying the boy who freed him. The movie cut Dobby from the script entirely and handed the moment to Neville. The Neville counter from movie 1 now officially runs in both directions. The films take his scenes and give him other people's. Some kind of cosmic exchange program. Turns out the most damaging change is the one casual viewers never clock. In the book, after Crouch Jr. confesses, Fudge marches into Hogwarts with a Dementor as his personal bodyguard, and the creature immediately sucks out Crouch's soul. The only living witness who could confirm Voldemort's return to the Ministry gone in seconds, which is exactly why Fudge spends the next year pretending nothing happened and painting Harry as a liar. The movie leaves Crouch alive and exposed in front of witnesses, evidence, then expects the audience to accept the Ministry's denial anyway. The entire conflict of the next film rests on missing evidence the movie forgot to make missing. The Order of the Phoenix. Cho Chang got framed. In the movie, Umbridge slips her Veritas serum. Cho involuntarily spills the location of Dumbledore's army, and the whole school treats her like a traitor for something she physically couldn't resist. The book tells a juicier story. The real informant is Marietta Edgecombe, Cho's best friend, who rats out the DA completely voluntarily because her mother works at the Ministry, and Hermione, sweet Hermione, had jinxed the DA sign-up sheet in advance, so the word sneak erupts across Marietta's face in purple pimples the moment she talks. The jinx is still visible months later. 13-year-old fans learned an important lesson that day. Never cross Hermione Granger in writing. The movie cut Marietta, dumped her crime on Cho, and accidentally turned a sympathetic character into the fandom's least favorite girlfriend for 2 decades. Unless, of course, you read the books. The Room of Requirement got reassigned too. The movie has Neville stumble into it while hiding from Crabbe and Goyle. In the book, Dobby tells Harry about the room, drawing on his elf knowledge of the castle. Yes, Dobby again. The films cut him 2 movies straight and quietly redistributed his greatest hits, mostly to Neville. At this point, Neville's filmography is 50% borrowed content from an elf. The prophecy itself got relocated. In the movie, Harry picks up the glowing orb in the Department of Mysteries and the prophecy plays out loud for him, and apparently for any Death Eater within earshot. In the book, the orb smashes during the battle unheard, and Harry learns the contents later that night in Dumbledore's office, from the only other witness, Dumbledore himself, who shows the original memory of Trelawney's prediction. The difference matters. The whole reason Voldemort orchestrated the entire Ministry break-in was that the only people named in a prophecy can take it off the shelf, and only the full record could tell him how to deal with Harry. Which brings the list to the painful one, Sirius's death. The movie makes it brutally clear. Bellatrix hits him with a green Avada Kedavra. He's dead before he touches the veil. The book never names the spell. The text only says a second jet of light hit him squarely in the chest, and he arcs backward through the archway, almost gracefully. What killed him, the curse or the veil itself, is one of the longest running debates in the fandom, and the ambiguity is the point. The veil is an ancient gateway to death, and Sirius slips through it mid-laugh, his last expression a mix of fear and surprise. The movie traded a haunting mystery for a clean answer, and the death of one of the series' most beloved characters lost a piece of its strangeness on the way to the screen. The Half-Blood Prince. The Burrow burns down in this movie, and book readers collectively gasped, because that scene exists nowhere in the books. Bellatrix and Greyback swoop in mid-Christmas, lure Harry into a swamp and torch the Weasley family home, while the trained Order members inside mostly watch it happen. The filmmakers invented the entire sequence to inject action into the quietest book of the series. The problem, beyond burning the coziest location in the franchise for shock value, is that the house is back and perfectly fine in the next film, hosting a wedding with zero explanation. Magical insurance must be incredible. The tower scene is the change fans genuinely can't forgive. In the movie, Harry stands 1 floor below, free as a bird, and voluntarily watches Snape kill Dumbledore without lifting his wand. In the book, Harry physically can't move. The moment Draco bursts onto the tower, Dumbledore uses his final second of magic to silently petrify Harry under the invisibility cloak. His last act before dying is freezing the boy in place to keep him hidden and safe. The film cut the body bind and accidentally rewrote Harry into someone who just lets his mentor die. One missing spell quietly ruined an entire character beat. Bellatrix wasn't even invited. The book keeps her far away from the Astronomy Tower battle. The dark mark over the castle is cast by other Death Eaters as bait before Dumbledore even returns. The movie flies her into Cackle, smash the Great Hall windows, and burn Hagrid's hut on the way out, because apparently the 6th film had a contractual minimum of Helena Bonham Carter chaos. Understandable, but not canon. The famous first kiss is wrong too. The movie hides Harry and Ginny in the Room of Requirement, where she kisses him softly in the dark like a scene from a perfume commercial. The book version has actual fireworks. Gryffindor wins the Quidditch Cup. The common room erupts, and Harry, riding pure adrenaline, grabs Ginny and kisses her in front of 50 screaming students, including her brother. Ron's reaction, a stunned nod of approval, is one of the best comedic beats in the book. The movie swapped a public mic drop for whispering in a dark room. Book Harry had more game. The Deathly Hallows Part 1. Part 1 opens with a robbery aimed at Dudley Dursley, of all people. When the Dursleys evacuate Privet Drive, the book gives Dudley a redemption beat nobody saw coming. He leaves a cup of tea outside Harry's door, shakes his hand, and says he doesn't think Harry is a waste of space. After 16 years of bullying, the cousin who once chased Harry around playgrounds is the only Dursley who says goodbye like a human being. Harry is so stunned he can barely answer. The scene was actually filmed for the movie, with both actors and then cut for time, surviving only in the DVD extras. So the theatrical version's last image of Dudley is the same spoiled bully from movie 1. And an entire character arc, one of the stories suggests, was born the night Dementors attacked him and forced him to see himself clearly, exists only for people who read the book or hunt down deleted scenes. Which, come on, that's all of us, right? The tent dance divides the fandom like nothing else in 8 films. Ron has just stormed off, the locket is poisoning everyone's mood, and suddenly Harry pulls Hermione into a slow, awkward shuffle to a Nick Cave song playing on the radio. The book has no dance, just 2 miserable teenagers barely speaking, marinating in cold and despair, which is exactly the point of that stretch of the story. Half the audience found the dance a tender moment of friendship, the other half saw the film flirting with a Harry and Hermione romance the book spent 7 volumes shutting out. Either way, the scene was invented out of thin air, and somewhere out there an entire generation believes Harry and Hermione almost kissed in a tent. They didn't. They mostly argued about food. The Malfoy Manor scene took the opposite route. The movie made it crueler. On screen, Bellatrix pins Hermione down and carves the word mudblood into her arm with a knife. The book never mentions any carving. Bellatrix tortures her with the Cruciatus curse, agony with no marks, and presses a blade to her throat, only when using her as a hostage. The carved scar was a film invention so visceral that the fandom adopted it wholesale, and fan art and fan fiction depict it everywhere, while even casual fans now treat the arm scar as canon, a change so effective it overwrote the source material in people's minds. Impressive and slightly terrifying, and very on brand for Bellatrix. Most fans don't realize the quietest change in Part 1 is also the most heartbreaking. When Voldemort tracks the Elder Wand to Nurmengard prison, movie Grindelwald practically hands over the address, smiling, telling him the wand lies with Dumbledore in his tomb. Book Grindelwald, ancient and toothless in his cell, laughs in the Dark Lord's face. He refuses to give up anything, taunts him with a wand that will never be his, and dies protecting the grave of the man he once loved. Yes, they were a couple, meaning if Lavender called Ron Wan, Grindelwald probably called Dumbledore Dum Dum. Shocking news for anyone who skipped Fantastic Beasts. Dumbledore later suggests this final defiance was Grindelwald's redemption, decades of remorse condensed into one last lie. The movie deleted a villain's redemption arc and replaced it with a helpful informant. One of the saddest trades in the whole adaptation, The Deathly Hallows Part 2. The final movie saved its boldest rewrites for the most important scene, starting with Harry confronting Snape in front of the entire school. "How dare you stand where he stood," is a fantastic line, and it's pure screenplay. In the book, Harry stays hidden, and the sacking of Severus Snape belongs entirely to McGonagall, who duels the headmaster through a corridor until he dives out a window. The movie gave Harry the spotlight and McGonagall the assist, when canon had it the other way around. Snape's farewell got a movie-only edition too. The Prince's Tale shows him kneeling in the ruined house at Godric's Hollow, cradling Lily's body while baby Harry cries in the crib. That memory appears nowhere in the book, which keeps Snape's grief behind closed doors in Dumbledore's office. The filmmakers invented the scene, and yes, it broke everyone anyway. The romance department made its own edit. Ron and Hermione's long-awaited kiss happens in the movie's Chamber of Secrets, soaked, breathless, right after destroying the cup. The book places it mid-battle in a burning castle, triggered by Ron suggesting they evacuate the house elves before the fighting reaches the kitchens. Hermione drops everything and throws herself at him, because nothing melts her heart quite like elf rights. 7 books of build-up, resolved by labor activism. Then comes the most uncomfortable 30 seconds in the franchise, Voldemort hugging Draco. The hug exists only because Ralph Fiennes improvised it on set, and it made the final cut because the entire crew found it exactly as horrifying as the audience did. In the book, the Dark Lord never has hugged anyone. Draco's parents simply grabbed their son and quietly quit the war. The final duel got the biggest budget upgrade in the series. The film sends Harry and Voldemort on a private tour of the castle, flying through the courtyard fused together, a cliff dive, a wand-to-wand laser fight with nobody watching. The book stages one exchange of spells in the Great Hall at sunrise, in front of every survivor, after Harry calmly explains to Voldemort exactly why the Elder Wand will never obey him. The villain who terrorized the world for decades gets publicly out-lawyered by a 17-year-old, then dies from his own rebounding curse. And he dies like an ordinary ordinary man, skipping the whole disintegration into confetti routine the movie staged over Scotland. The book lands the hardest beat in the series. Tom Riddle hits the floor as a plain dead body, shockingly human because that's the point. He was a mortal man all along, one who spent his life running from a fate that caught him anyway in front of a crowd. And then the wand. Movie Harry snaps the Elder Wand in half and tosses it off the bridge. Very dramatic. Deeply unwise. Book Harry first uses it for the only thing he actually wants, repairing his broken Holly Wand. Then he plans to return the Elder Wand to Dumbledore's tomb, so its power dies with him naturally. The movie kept the snapping and forgot the repairing, which leaves Film Harry standing on the bridge having just destroyed the only tool capable of fixing his own wand. 19 years later, he's at King's Cross with kids and presumably a wand from a vending machine. So, still a masterpiece of a film series, but now there's ammunition for the next argument with friends who never opened the books. Can you imagine not opening the books? And if you're wondering where everyone ended up once the credits rolled, here's what happened to every wizard after the Deathly Hallows. That's your next lesson here at Stickman Hogwarts. Click now before the Ministry seals its records.